I pulled into the parking lot of Harbor Inn just before sunset. The sky was painted in those quiet oranges and blues you only get in late September. It was our anniversary. 50 years. I had a bouquet in the passenger seat. Red roses. Classic. Stupid. She loved them once. My wife told me she was having dinner with her old friend Linda. They were supposed to go to that seafood place by the docks. I was going to pick her up after. But something had been itching at the back of my neck all week. You know that feeling when the world's a little off-kilter and you don't know why yet? That was me. The GPS in her car wasn't standard. I had it installed 2 years ago after she started forgetting where she parked. Early signs, I thought. Or maybe I just wanted peace of mind. That night, I checked it. Linda didn't live near the Harbor Inn. I sat there in my truck for a full 10 minutes before stepping out. I didn't even turn off the engine. The bouquet stayed on the seat. Room 214. That's where her car was parked. Red Toyota Camry. Clean as always. She kept it better than she kept our marriage, turns out. I didn't knock. I opened the door. It wasn't locked. I don't know what I expected. Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. The light in the room was dim. Smelled like cheap air freshener and sweat. The kind of room made for cheating. On the bed, my wife. Naked except for the necklace I gave her on our 20th anniversary. Her legs wrapped around a man who wasn't me. She was moaning like she was 20 again. She didn't see me. Neither did he. I didn't speak. I didn't scream. I didn't charge in like some dramatic movie scene. I just stood there. And I watched. I watched the woman I built a life with, the woman who bore my children, who cried on my shoulder when her mother died, who held my hand when I came back from surgery. I watched her become a stranger in 10 seconds. It felt like drowning without water. Like dying but staying upright. She finally saw me when she reached for the nightstand. That's when her eyes met mine. And I swear, for a split second, she wasn't even shocked. Just annoyed. He turned, confused. He was younger than me. Maybe mid-50s. Muscles, tattoos. Cheap-looking guy trying to look expensive. No one spoke. I turned around and walked out. I don't know how I didn't fall apart on the spot. I got back in my truck, roses still sitting there like a punchline, and I drove. Didn't go home. Didn't go to a bar. I just drove. After 2 hours, I pulled into a rest stop and sat under a broken lamp post. I stared at nothing. My hands were shaking. 50 years. 50 goddamn years. You give someone everything. You build a home. You sacrifice. You stay when they are sick. You work 2 jobs when the bills pile up. You bury your parents together. You laugh, cry, grow old. And then one day, they are in a motel with someone else, throwing away half a century like it meant nothing. That's not heartbreak. That's betrayal carved into your bones. But I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I started planning. I didn't go home that night. I couldn't. The idea of walking into that house, the one I built with my own hands back in '79, knowing she had come back from that motel and slept in our bed like nothing happened, it made me sick. I spent the night in my truck. Drove until the tank ran low, then parked behind an abandoned diner off Route 7. I left the windows cracked and leaned back in my seat, trying to close my eyes. I didn't sleep. Just stared at the roof, listening to the occasional hum of a passing semi. I kept seeing her face. Not during the act, though God knows that haunted me, but the second she saw me. That moment. That look. It was like I'd interrupted her grocery shopping, not 50 years of marriage. There wasn't fear in her eyes. Not guilt. Just inconvenience. As if I had become a burden to her by simply being there. Around 6 a.m., I drove to the lake. Sat by the water for 2 hours, just thinking. Then I went back to the house. Her car was already in the driveway. When I stepped inside, the smell of her perfume hit me like a wall. Lavender. Sweet and bitter, like the rest of her. She was in the kitchen, pouring coffee. She didn't look surprised to see me. Just looked over her shoulder and said, "You're up early." That was it. No explanation. No apology. Just that calm voice I'd heard a million mornings before, like nothing had happened. I didn't answer. Just walked past her, into the den, sat in my chair. She followed a few minutes later. "We need to talk," she said. I nodded. "We do." I made a mistake. I looked at her then. Not the way a husband looks at his wife, but like a man studying a suspect. "How long?" I asked. She hesitated. "Don't lie. Just tell me the truth." She sat on the edge of the couch, folding her hands in her lap. "It's been about 2 years," she said. My chest tightened. "With him?" I asked. She nodded. I leaned back, staring at the ceiling. 2 years. While I was recovering from hip surgery. While I was fixing up the porch. While I was making her breakfast every damn Sunday. 2 years. I was lonely, she said. That word, lonely, it made me want to laugh. Or scream. Or both. "You were lonely?" I said slowly. "In a house where I was always around? Where I've never raised my voice, never laid a hand on you, never once left you hungry or cold. I didn't mean to hurt you." That one made me laugh. I actually laughed. It came out broken and hollow, but it was real. "You didn't mean to hurt me," I repeated. "You just accidentally slept with another man for 2 years." Her face tensed. "I'm sorry, all right? I thought we were." "I don't know." "Drifting." "Drifting?" I repeated. "People who are drifting don't go to motels. They talk. They try. They fight for it. You didn't drift. You jumped." She didn't respond. "I gave you everything," I said. "I gave you my life." She looked at me, and for the first time, her eyes softened. But it was too late for softness. That moment had passed. "I'll end it," she said quietly. "I'll stop seeing him." I stood up. "You already ended it. Last night." She flinched, but I didn't care. "I'm not staying in a house with a liar. Not another night. I'll sleep in the guest room." "No," I said. "You'll leave." Her mouth opened, then shut again. She looked down. "It's my house too." "No," I said again. Calm. Cold. "It's my house. I built it. Paid every mortgage. Did every repair. You can leave with your clothes and your car. Nothing else." "You can't do that," she said, suddenly raising her voice. "I can. And I will." She stood up now, her face red. "You being cruel." "No," I said. "I'm being fair. For the first time in 50 years, I'm being fair to myself." She didn't say anything after that. Just walked past me, into the bedroom, shut the door. I didn't follow. Instead, I walked into the garage, pulled out an old box from the shelves. Inside was every receipt, deed, and financial document I'd ever kept. I wasn't bluffing. That house was mine. The savings? Mostly mine. The joint accounts? Not for long. That day, I called a lawyer. Not just any lawyer. My old friend Hank. We served together in Vietnam. He owed me more than one favor. By sundown, I had divorce papers drafted. I placed them on the kitchen table, right under her coffee mug. And for the first time in a very long time, I felt, not peace, exactly, but control. And that was enough, for now. She didn't leave right away. Of course she didn't. She stayed in the house like a ghost. Quiet, soft-footed, as if her silence could erase what happened. For 3 days, we lived under the same roof, barely speaking. She'd make herself toast in the morning. I'd drink coffee in the garage. She slept in the guest room, I slept in the chair in the den. On the 4th day, I changed the locks. She came home from wherever she was, probably work, though God knows if that was the truth, and her key didn't work. She knocked. I didn't answer. She banged louder. Open the door, she said. I didn't. Eventually, I opened it just wide enough to hand her a suitcase. I packed some of your things, I said. The rest will follow. You can't do this, Jim. I already have. Where am I supposed to go? Try the motel. Room 214 might still be available. She looked like she'd been slapped. I shut the door. That night, I slept better than I had in years. The next week was paperwork and silence. Lawyers, accounts, records. I wasn't just divorcing her, I was dismantling a lie that had stood for half a century. Every file I touched, every account I moved, felt like I was peeling back a layer of rot from something I thought was solid. Then came the part I'd been dreading. Telling the kids. We had 2, Michael and Anna. Both grown. Married. Kids of their own. They lived states away, busy with their lives, their jobs, their holidays. I didn't blame them. But I knew this call would shake them. I called Michael first. Hey, Dad, he said. Everything okay? No, I said. Your mother and I are getting a divorce. Silence. What? She cheated on me. It's been going on for years. More silence. Then, carefully, are you sure? That stung more than it should have. I caught them. In a motel. I don't need to be sure. I saw it. Jesus Christ. He didn't say much after that. Promised he'd call back. He didn't. Anna was harder. She cried. Dad, you two are forever. You're not supposed to split. Well, I said, we weren't supposed to lie either. She didn't know what to say. Neither of them did. The next few days were quiet. No calls. No texts. Just legal forms and long walks. Then, one morning, I got a call from an unknown number. I answered without thinking. Jim? It was him. Her lover. His voice was low, almost cautious. Like he was the one who'd been hurt. I think we should talk. I nearly laughed. What the hell do you think we have to talk about? I didn't mean for this to go that far, he said. But you meant for it to go somewhere, right? You meant to sneak around with my wife for years. She told me you were cold. That you didn't care. I could have screamed. I could have driven to wherever he was and broken his face. But I didn't. I listened. And then I spoke, calm as the grave. Let me make something real clear. You took something from me that I built over 5 decades. You didn't steal a fling, you dismantled a life. You touched what wasn't yours, and now you're going to watch it all fall apart. I just want to make peace. You made your bed in room 214. Lie in it. But don't ever call this number again. I hung up. Then I stood there for a long time. Not shaking. Not crying. Just still. I knew what I had to do next. It wasn't enough to just end things with her. I wanted him to feel it. To know what it's like to lose everything. So I started digging. I remembered things he'd said over the years, offhand comments, jokes at barbecues, slip-ups. He worked in real estate. He wasn't clean. I remembered once he bragged about screwing over a widow on a house sale. I called in a favor from a guy I knew, private investigator named Clay. Vietnam vet. Quiet. Precise. Find me everything you can, I told him. You want it legal or ugly? Both. 2 days later, he called. You're not going to like what I found. Try me. He sent me a file. Turns out the man who'd been sleeping with my wife was also scamming clients, falsifying documents, even hiding money from the IRS. I smiled for the first time in weeks. Because now I had a new mission. I wasn't just ending a marriage. I was starting a war. I didn't waste time. The moment I got that file from Clay, I printed every page and spread them across my dining room table like pieces of a broken mirror. Bank statements, property transfers, shell companies, tax filings, all dirty, all traceable. This guy wasn't just screwing my wife. He was screwing the government, his clients, maybe even his own business partners. It wasn't just personal anymore. It was justice. For 50 years I lived like a good man. Honest work. Honest love. And now I had the means to destroy someone who thought consequences were optional. That ends with me. I called Clay back. Told him I needed something actionable, something that would stick. He said he'd reach out to someone he knew in the DA's office. Not to report it, just to plant a seed. I know who to call, he said. Somebody who hates mortgage fraud almost as much as you hate adultery. That made me chuckle. While Clay worked the legal angle, I took the personal one. I started talking. I called his clients, some of them, the older ones, the ones I knew from church, from the community center. Asked how their investments were doing. Asked if they'd ever seen documentation on their purchases. They hadn't. I gave them just enough to make them suspicious. Not too much. Not yet. I wanted it to spread like smoke before the fire came. Meanwhile, my wife, ex-wife now, legally, was still trying to play it cool. She called once or twice, left messages. We should talk, she said. You being vindictive. I didn't answer. She moved in with her sister 2 counties over. I knew she thought this would blow over, that I'd cool off, that maybe we'd even reconcile. She never really knew me. A man can stay quiet for decades and still carry a storm in his chest. I went to see Hank again, my lawyer. Told him about the fraud. Gave him the files. He read through them with a slow, deliberate pace. Then he looked up at me. You sure you want to go this far? He asked. I haven't even started. He nodded. All right, then. We filed a report anonymously, with backup from the private investigator's findings. 2 days later, Clay called. They're looking into him now. Officially. I didn't smile. I wasn't doing this for pleasure. I was doing this to restore something he thought he could take from me, a dignity. I got a call that night from Anna, my daughter. Dad, she said, voice trembling. Mom called. She said you going after him legally. Is that true? Yes, I said. Long pause. Why? I took a deep breath. Because for 50 years I stood still while people walked all over me. Because I gave everything to someone who gave me nothing but lies. And now I have a chance to make sure the man who helped her destroy our family feels every ounce of what he took. She didn't answer right away. Then, I think I understand. I don't need you to, I said. I just need you to remember what integrity looks like. That was the end of the call. Later that week, I was walking through the grocery store, picking up coffee and frozen dinners like some tired old man, when I saw him. There he was. In aisle 6. Buying protein bars and shaving cream. He looked up and saw me. His face drained of color. I didn't stop. Didn't yell. I walked up, calm as a priest. You'll want to get a lawyer, I said. A good one. He swallowed. Jim, listen. I leaned in just close enough. Every lie you've told, every dollar you've hidden, every signature you faked, they're coming for you now. And when they do, I'll be watching. I walked away. Left him there, shaking. I didn't need to punch him. Truth was sharper than any fist. That night, I got a call from Clay. They froze his accounts, he said. The IRS is circling. He'll be lucky if he gets house arrest. I sat in my den. Same chair I used to nap in while she watched cooking shows in the background. And I felt it. Not happiness. Not victory. But something cleaner. Like I'd finally rinsed off 50 years of mud. And I wasn't done yet. Not by a long shot. The fallout didn't take long. By the end of the month, he was under full investigation. The DA's office had subpoenaed his records, the IRS froze his personal and business accounts, and at least 3 of his former clients had filed complaints. I watched it all from my porch. Every morning, coffee in hand, same chair I built 20 years ago. I didn't check the news. I didn't need to. Clay kept me updated. And besides, you could feel it in the air, like a storm had cracked open the ground under his feet. Then came the call I'd been waiting for. Clay again. They are building the case. It's going to court. Probably federal. Wire fraud, tax evasion, elder abuse, you name it. I didn't respond. Jim, you hearing me? He's going to lose everything. I heard you, I said. But I wasn't smiling. Because there was still one piece left to move. Her. I'd left her alone for weeks. No contact. No responses. Let her stew in silence, in her sister's cramped guest room, surrounded by memories that didn't belong to her anymore. Then one morning, I drove out there. Not to talk. Not to argue. To finish it. She answered the door in an old sweatshirt and sweatpants. No makeup. Hair tied up in a way she never wore it when we were together. Jim, she said, stunned. Can I come in? She hesitated. Then stepped aside. The house was small. Clean, too clean. Like a place people lived in temporarily, always half-packed. We sat in the kitchen. She offered me coffee. I said no. She looked tired. Older than I remembered. Like the weight of what she'd done had finally caught up to her. I heard about him, she said quietly. Not why I'm here. She nodded, eyes down. I got the papers, she said. It's official now. Yes. I don't know what to say. Good. Because there's nothing to say. She flinched a little, like she expected cruelty. But I wasn't cruel. I was done. I came to give you this, I said, placing an envelope on the table. What is it? A final agreement. I'm signing over your car, and a one-time payout. You won't contact me again. You won't contact the kids unless they reach out first. You disappear. Start over. But not near me. She looked up, shocked. You just cutting me off? I leaned in slightly. You cut yourself off. I'm just making it legal. She picked up the envelope, hands shaking. Is this revenge? She asked. No. That came and went. She swallowed. Jim. I never wanted this. I made mistakes. But I never stopped loving you. That made me pause. Just for a second. Because in another life, maybe that would have mattered. But not in this one. I stood up. I stopped loving you the moment you looked at me like I was a burden. I didn't mean. But you did. That night in the motel, you looked at me like I was interrupting something routine. Like I was the problem. Tears welled up in her eyes. I was lost, she whispered. So was I said. But I didn't go looking for someone else's bed. She didn't argue. Didn't defend herself. Just sat there, quietly crying, holding that envelope like it weighed 100 pounds. I didn't feel sorry for her. Not anymore. I walked to the door. She followed behind. When I opened it, I turned to her one last time. You had a good life. You had everything. You threw it away. I'm not here to punish you. I'm here to let go. She nodded slowly, tears running down her face. And I walked out. I got back in my truck and drove away. Didn't look back. Didn't need to. The past was behind me, finally where it belonged. That night, I opened a bottle of bourbon I'd been saving for decades. Sat on the porch. Quiet all around. I didn't toast to freedom. I didn't toast to revenge. I just drank. Alone. But for the first time in a long, long time, I didn't feel lonely. It's funny how quickly silence can become a friend. After I walked away from her for the last time, the world didn't get louder, it got quieter. And that silence wasn't empty. It was honest. No more fake morning greetings, no awkward dinners, no pretending the love was still alive. Just air, and breath, and the sound of my boots on the porch when I stepped out in the morning. I kept to myself for a while. Worked in the shed, fixed up the back fence that had been falling apart for 3 years. It felt good to use my hands again. Real work. Tangible progress. Not the invisible labor of keeping a marriage from collapsing while the other person digs under your feet. Clay called again about a week later. His lawyer tried to cut a deal, he said. But the DA refused. They want blood. He's facing jail time now, minimum 5 years. Let me know when the trial date's set. You gonna testify? Only if they ask. Truth is, I didn't care if he went to prison or just lost his license. I wasn't after steel bars, I was after a mirror. I wanted him to see himself for what he was. I wanted his kids, his wife, his colleagues to see it too. And that was starting to happen. One morning I went to the hardware store, nothing special, just picking up paint, and I heard 2 men talking near the register. You hear about that real estate guy? Carlson? They're saying he skimmed old folks out of their homes. Yeah, my cousin lost his down payment through him. Guy's going under fast. I didn't say anything. Just paid for my paint and walked out. But inside, I felt it, a slow, steady warmth. Not joy. Not pride. Just balance. Later that week, Michael called. My son. We hadn't spoken since the divorce papers were signed. Hey, Dad. His voice was tentative, like a kid who knew he'd done something wrong. Hey. I, uh. I heard about everything. What you doing? With the guy? Yeah. I talked to Mom. She said you were being extreme. I said nothing. She also said you were right. That one stopped me. She said that? Yeah. She admit what she did? She did. I exhaled. Longitude slow. She said she never thought you'd leave. That she thought you'd forgive her eventually. She was wrong. I know. Silence again. Then. I want to visit. Bring the kids. Something in my chest loosened. You always welcome. 2 days later, he showed up. 3 grandkids in tow. Wife stayed back home, but that didn't matter. We grilled burgers in the yard, played ball, laughed. It had been years since laughter came so easy. At one point, my grandson, 7 years old, asked me, "Grandpa, where's Grandma?" Michael looked over, waiting. I knelt down. She's not here anymore, buddy. She lives somewhere else now. Why? Because sometimes grown-ups make big mistakes. And when they do, they have to live with them. He thought about that. Then nodded. Okay. That was it. Kids understand more than we give them credit for. After they left, I sat on the porch again. Same bourbon. Same chair. But it tasted different now. Softer. The phone rang around 9. Anna. Hi, Dad. Hi. I was thinking about coming up next weekend. You always welcome. You okay? I'm better. She was quiet a moment. You know. I used to be mad at you. For not trying to save it. For not fighting for her. I did fight, I said. I just stopped swinging when I realized I was the only one in the ring. She didn't speak again. But she didn't hang up either. And for a little while, we just sat there. Connected by breath, by silence, by something deeper than words. I wasn't whole yet. But the pieces were starting to fit back together. And for the first time in a long time, I knew exactly who I was without her. I thought the worst of it was over. I'd cut her off. I'd exposed him. The silence was steady, and for the first time in years, my life had a rhythm that didn't revolve around someone else's expectations. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was rebuilding. But nothing ever stays still for long. It started with a letter. No return address. No postmark. Just a plain white envelope, slid through the gap in my screen door. Inside was a photo. Grainy. Old. But unmistakable. It was her. My wife. In a bar. Sitting close to him. Not the real estate scammer, someone else. A different man. The photo was dated 1981. I stared at it for a long time. My hands didn't shake. My heart didn't race. I just stared, trying to process the new weight pressing down on my chest. 81. That was the year Anna was born. I didn't want to jump to conclusions. But the seed was planted. I didn't call anyone. I didn't rage or cry. I drove. Back to Clay. He looked at the photo, then at me. You want me to find out who he is? I nodded once. He didn't ask why. 3 days later, he called me back. His name's Walter Mercer. Used to tend bar at a spot down near the river. Had a reputation. For what? Sleeping with married women. Quietly. Regularly. I didn't respond. There's more. Go on. He's dead. Died in '99. Liver failure. No family. No kids, far as the records show. I sat down, feeling something cold and bitter settle into my gut. Except, there's this, Clay added. What? A hospital record. From 1981. A paternity test, never filed officially. But the lab kept a duplicate. He paused. It shows that Walter Mercer was tested as a possible father to a child born July 12, 1981. The mother's name on the form? I closed my eyes. Susan Walker. My wife. And the child? Anna. I didn't say a word. Not to Clay. Not to anyone. I just hung up the phone and sat in my den for hours, listening to the creak of the old fan overhead, the ticking of the clock, the way my breath came slower than usual. That night, I didn't sleep. My daughter. My girl. The only one who still called, who wanted to visit, who saw me as a father even when her mother didn't. And now this. I wasn't angry. I was hollow. The next day, I pulled out the photo again. Studied it. And something shifted. Not in me, in my resolve. I didn't care about the DNA. I didn't care about Mercer, dead and buried with his secrets. I raised Anna. I rocked her when she had nightmares. I coached her softball team. I paid for her college, cried at her wedding. I was her father in every way that counted. But still, I needed to hear it from the one person who never gave me a straight answer. So I called her. The ex. She didn't answer. I drove again. This time to her sister's house. She opened the door like she'd been expecting a ghost. Jim. I held up the photo. You want to tell me who this is? She looked at it. Didn't flinch. Where'd you get that? Does it matter? A long pause. Then she stepped aside and let me in. We sat at the kitchen table. Just like last time. She didn't cry. Didn't deny. Yes, she said finally. It's true. I didn't speak. I didn't know for sure. I swear. I thought it was you. But there was doubt. I just ignored it. You lied to me for 42 years. No. I believed the lie. I had to. I stood up. Did Anna ever know? No. Does she need to? She looked up, surprised. I don't know. I do, I said. And the answer is no. She nodded. And that was the end of it. I walked out without another word. That night, Anna called again. We talked about the kids. About life. About nothing. And I never told her. Because blood doesn't make you a father. Love does. I thought that after 42 years of secrets, nothing else could surprise me. But life has a strange way of testing whether you're really done with pain. About 2 weeks after I confronted her, Clay called again. I could hear something different in his voice, less business, more tension. You sitting down? He asked. I'm standing. Say it. Her bank account was flagged. I frowned. Whose? Your ex-wife's. Susan. The IRS put a freeze on it. Turns out she's been hiding income for years. I didn't say anything at first. She was getting payments, he continued. Monthly ones. From a joint account registered under Mercer's name. Still active after his death. Probably kept up by someone else. She's been pulling from it for over a decade. My blood ran cold. You telling me she was still tied to him? She never let go. That hit harder than it should have. Even after everything, some small part of me wanted to believe she made a mistake with the realtor. A moment of weakness. But Mercer? A ghost from 1981? She never stopped. Clay added, "The feds are investigating. If she's convicted of fraud, they'll seize everything she has left." I took a deep breath. Then laughed. Just once. A short, dry bark of disbelief. She hadn't just betrayed me. She'd lived a double life for decades. "Do they know about Anna?" I asked. "No. And unless you tell them, they won't. The payments were under Susan's name only." "Good. Leave Anna out of this." "Of course." I hung up and stood there for a long time, watching the sky through the kitchen window. Clouds rolling in. Heavy. Gray. The kind that settle in your bones. It wasn't anger I felt. Not anymore. It was revelation. I'd spent so many years trying to figure out when the lie began. Now I realized, it never ended. That night, I poured myself a drink and sat with my old photo albums. Pages of memories. Her smile. The kids. Vacations. Birthdays. The kind of life that looked full, but was half empty underneath. And I didn't cry. Because I wasn't mourning her anymore. I was mourning the man I used to be. The one who believed. The one who waited for her to come home late and didn't ask questions. The one who ignored his gut for the sake of peace. He was gone. Good riddance. The next day, I got a call from Anna. Her voice was shaky. "Dad. Mom called me. She said the IRS is looking into her finances. She's scared." I kept my voice calm. Steady. "Did she tell you why?" "She said it was a mistake. That she didn't know it was wrong." "She knew." Silence. "She told me you turned them on her." "I didn't. They found her on their own." Anna was quiet again. "Then, is it true? That she was still getting money from that man?" I hesitated. Then lied. "No. I couldn't break her like that. Anna had already lost too much. She needs help," she said. "She needs to own what she did." More silence. "I'm sorry, Dad." "I know." Then she asked something I didn't expect. "Can I come stay with you for a while?" That hit me in the chest. "Of course," I said, voice thick. I don't want to be around her right now." "You don't have to explain." When she arrived 2 days later, I met her at the station. She looked tired, like the weight of all those years finally found its way to her shoulders. We didn't talk about her mother. We grilled chicken. We drank sweet tea. We sat on the porch and watched the sun go down behind the trees. And when she hugged me that night, she held on longer than usual. That was the moment I knew something had shifted. Not just in her, but in me. I wasn't just reclaiming my life. I was rewriting it. Without her. Without lies. Just truth, and silence, and the kind of peace that only comes after a storm has taken everything false with it. And left only what matters. Anna stayed with me for 2 weeks. Every morning, I'd wake up and hear her in the kitchen, making coffee just the way I like it. No one had done that in years. Not even her mother, toward the end. There was no awkwardness between us. No tiptoeing around the past. We didn't need to say everything, because some things were already understood. She didn't ask again about the money, or Mercer, or the photo. And I didn't bring it up. That silence between us wasn't avoidance, it was respect. The kind that says, we've both lost enough. One evening, after dinner, we sat on the porch again. The sky was pink, fading into dusk, and the air smelled like cut grass and charcoal from a neighbor's grill. She looked at me, real serious. Do you hate her? I didn't flinch. No. She raised an eyebrow. Really? I don't hate her, I said. But I don't love her anymore either. And that's something she can never undo. Anna nodded slowly, like she understood more than she wanted to. She's falling apart, she said. Can't sleep. Won't eat. She calls me crying. Leaves messages saying she never meant for this. She meant every second of it. She just didn't think I'd ever leave. Anna didn't argue. Then she said something that surprised me. I'm proud of you. That hit me harder than I expected. You are? She nodded. For not turning into a bitter old man. For not becoming like her. I didn't know what to say. So I said nothing. Just sat there and watched the sky. 2 days later, she went home. Her husband picked her up, shook my hand, thanked me. The kids hugged me goodbye. And for the first time, as I stood in that driveway and waved them off, I didn't feel abandoned. I felt steady. Whole. And that's when the letter came. Official. From the county courthouse. Her trial date had been set. Fraud. Tax evasion. Wire transfers under false identity. It was all listed in black ink. Charges she couldn't talk her way out of. And though I hadn't planned to go, I found myself standing in the back of that courtroom on the day it began. She didn't see me. She sat at the defense table in a gray suit that looked 2 sizes too big, her hair pulled back like she was trying to erase who she used to be. The prosecutor laid everything out, methodical, brutal. A trail of lies going back decades. Transactions traced to accounts she said she never touched. Payments from a dead man. At one point, she started crying. No one moved. The judge didn't blink. The jury didn't flinch. And I didn't feel a thing. Not pity. Not victory. Just closure. At lunch, I stepped outside the courthouse and leaned against the wall, watching people pass by like nothing important was happening inside. Clay joined me. She's not getting out of this, he said. I know. She'll lose the rest. Whatever money's hidden, they'll find it. She'll be lucky to avoid jail. She was never lucky, I said. She was just a good liar. He lit a cigarette. You want to testify? No. You sure? I don't need to twist the knife. It's already in deep. He nodded. And we stood there a while longer, in that heat, in that silence that no longer felt heavy. Later that week, I drove out to the cemetery. Not for her. For me. For the man I used to be. I stood by my parents' grave for a long time. Told them everything. Not out loud. Just in my head. About the years I wasted. The lies I lived in. The way I finally pulled myself out. And I thank them. For raising a man who could walk away. Not all men do. Some die with their pride broken, still trying to fix what was never theirs to fix. Not me. Not anymore. On the drive home, the sun was setting behind the fields. I turned off the radio. Rolled down the window. Let the wind in. And I realized something. She never really knew me. She never deserved to. But I knew myself now. And I liked the man I'd become. The trial ended the way I expected. She didn't fight much. Her lawyer did what he could, but the evidence was solid, and her tears didn't carry the weight they used to. In the end, the judge spared her prison, but not the humiliation. She was fined, publicly condemned, and stripped of everything she'd spent years trying to hide. I didn't attend the sentencing. I already knew the result before the gavel came down. She tried to call me once more. I let it ring. Then I blocked the number. It was finally done. It's strange how life settles when you stop chasing things that never belong to you. The past. Apologies. Closure. All that nonsense. You don't need it. What you need is space. Time. Honesty, if not from others, then from yourself. I fixed the roof that summer. Painted the shed. Got the old chivvy running again. I kept busy, not because I was running, but because I was finally still. Sometimes I'd sit on the porch with the bourbon and just listen to the sounds around me, the birds, the crickets, the creak of the swing. Silence isn't emptiness. It's proof that nothing's breaking anymore. Anna visited again in August. She brought her kids. Her husband. We grilled ribs. Played cards. She laughed louder than I'd heard her laugh in years. It was real. At one point, she looked at me and said, "You seem different." "I am," I said. "You okay?" "I'm not okay. I'm better." She smiled. "Me too." And we left it at that. In September, Michael called. He wanted to come down for a weekend. Said he missed the old house. Missed me. We sat in the den that Saturday night, just the two of us, like we hadn't in decades. He asked if I was angry with him, for how he reacted when everything came out. "No," I said. "You were confused. And I was quiet too long." He nodded. Then he asked a question I hadn't expected. "Would you ever love someone again?" I looked at the fire for a while before answering. Love isn't something I'm chasing anymore. If it shows up at my door, I'll offer it a chair. But I won't go looking down roads I've already walked. He smiled, bittersweet. I get that. And I think he really did. Autumn came quickly. Leaves fell in bursts of red and gold. The nights got colder. I didn't mind. I had blankets. And peace. One night, I pulled out a box I hadn't touched in years. Letters. Old cards. Photographs. Pieces of a life that once felt solid. I burned most of them in the fire pit out back. Not out of hate. Out of necessity. Letting go isn't an act of revenge. It's an act of survival. And then came the day I stopped thinking about her entirely. Not with anger. Not with sorrow. Just, not at all. That was the real ending. Not the trial. Not the divorce. Not the letters or photos or final calls. The real ending was when her name passed through my mind without stopping. When she became a ghost in a story I didn't need to tell anymore. People still ask sometimes, old neighbors, guys from the Legion Hall. What really happened with Susan? And I tell them the truth. She lied. I left. The end. That's all they need to know. The rest? That's mine. Not because I'm hiding it. But because I earned the right to keep it. Some days, I sit on the porch and watch the road. No one's coming. And that's fine. I have my house. I have my name. And most importantly, I have myself.